Okay, hello everybody. It's a little after 7, so I think we'll be getting started. My name is Henry Moser, and I work as the Online Learning Specialist at the Student Academic Success Center here in Portland, Maine. Before we get started, let's make sure everybody has audio. If you can hear me, go ahead and type yes in the chat box for me, or raise your hand, or hit 1, or any of those many functions you have available to you. Good, looks like everyone's hearing me. Please make sure you type your first and last name in the little box if you haven't already. It looks like many of you already have, so I appreciate that. Okay, so I'm pretty sure, can everyone tell me what program they're in? I think we're going to have 100% MPH. I just wanted to double check that. Hi Sandra, I've seen your name before. All right, MPH, woot woot. Okay, good. All right, so let's do a little housekeeping, and then we will go ahead and get busy on the AMA. Whoops, gotta remember, make sure I'm doing the right workshop here. The AMA workshop. So first of all, the way that I'm going to run this is I'm just going to go through some slides and take you kind of on various tours of how to write this. And there's not a lot of opportunity for you all to come in and chime in. So I would encourage that you guys, if you want me to stop or slow down or repeat, or if you have a real specific question, just go ahead and type it, right in the bottom. And because I can see what you're typing, and what I'll do is I'll either address it right away, or I'll finish what I'm saying, and then I'll go to your question on the bottom. So, don't be afraid, don't be shy. Just go ahead and type in there, and I'll get to you as soon as I can. Okay, see what we have here. So again, like I just said, mainly what we're saying here is I need you to go ahead and type at that bottom if you can't hear something, or if you want me to repeat something. I sent everybody a document, and I think it's, excuse me, it's called Links for the AMA workshop, and this is one of the links I'd encourage you to hit. It's a like on Facebook. If you have Facebook, go ahead and like us there, and then you'll receive automatic notifications of when we're having our workshops. And looks like I'm going to be spending some time with MPH students. Looks like I'm going to be spending some time with some MPH students, so it's a good time to build that relationship. D. Jones. No, it's not a problem at all. Obviously you wouldn't have access to our Facebook page, but every workshop that we're going to have, I'm going to tell faculty, and they're going to let you know when you have something that you may want to be a part of. And D. Jones, make sure you type first and last name if you haven't already. Thanks so much. All right, I think we're ready to go. Okay. MPH, yes, Nicole. Everyone here is in public health. Okay, so here's what we have. We're looking at, these are our 5 big ideas that we're going to cover. The big one, and for since I've been working with APA students learning APA and AMA and MLA, the big ones people are looking at are probably number 3 and number 4. But let's go, we've got what AMA is, how to avoid plagiarism, what plagiarism is, then citations, references, and general format. All right, and since this is such a big one, let's get number 3 and number 4. Let's see if this little sun works. Okay, number 3 and number 4, I want that to, just for the first time you'll hear this as many times tonight, understand that citations are in your text and references are at the end of what you are writing. It would be the reference page. Reference is where you got it. Citation is when you're actually making a note, or you're citing the actual individual, and we'll get to that real specific. Okay, so what do we got here? The AMA formatting style refers to the styling of scholarly writing. Okay, so kind of interesting, I found this little tidbit the other day. The first edition 40 years ago had 68 pages. So what this is right here, this big book, is the AMA Manual of Style, and it has over 1,000 pages, and it guides authors and researchers in the scientific community. It's what it is. They're providing a uniform way in which to publish writing. And public health kind of follows, a lot of other health professions in using AMA as their writing standard of choice. So you can buy this big book, or what our library has given you, and I'm not sure if you guys are aware of this or not, but I'm going to take you quickly to see something. Let's see. All right, now hopefully you're seeing my web browser here. And, okay. All right, so, whoops, I'm going to go back one more time. So make sure everyone sees everything. Okay, beg your pardon. Let me fix this real quick. I want you to look at, this is the links for AMA workshop that I showed everybody. Hopefully you can see this right now. And I want you to see this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go from this link right here, and I'm going to go to a web page. Okay, and this web page actually has the entire AMA manual of style digitized for you guys to have access. Our library put this together. So again, sorry it's so choppy, but we're cruising now. This right here. So that link is going to take you to this page right here, which is the UNE Library Services page. And if you go to the second one down, it says AMA, American Medical Association Manual of Style. And this is about the coolest thing you may get from this workshop. Is, if you look, this is the AMA Manual of Style, and it's available to you guys because you'll be signed in as, it's probably going to ask you, right here it says subscriber, University of New England Libraries. It's probably going to ask you to log in, with your email or something like that, and that'll give you access. And if you look at this drop-down menu, and I'm not sure if you guys can see it because it kind of varies sometimes on these programs, but this right here is telling you this drop-down, go directly to section, types of articles, manuscript preparation, how to deal with quotation marks, what do appendix look like, numbering. I mean, if you can tell, there are literally thousands of pages and hundreds of headings, okay? But this right here is the entire AMA Manual of Style book that is available to you all. All right, enough of that. Let's see if anyone's asked any questions. Nope, not yet. So again, don't be shy. Get on those questions if you have any, all right? And if you just joined us, please make sure you type in your first and last name in the chat box eventually so I can have that for my records. All right. So AMA Manual of Style. Thank you, Tiffany. All right, let's start with plagiarism. And welcome, Daniel. The plagiarism is an interesting conversation, and it definitely, varies from level. You guys are all grad students, probably professional employees in one area or another, and then you go all the way, to undergrad to high school, and even on a multicultural basis, on a cultural basis, plagiarism is even varied. And what I want everyone to learn today and take from this is that, what plagiarism is, it's copying or taking the language of another author without acknowledging it. Also, not necessarily using their words, but just using their ideas. And then finally, using their data. So if you're reading somebody's study, so let's say Susan Rowe wrote an article, okay, and she wrote a study, and she explains why she did a study on, she went to some public schools, and she talked about maybe some counseling processes at public schools, and the funding of it. She did a study, and she found out that public schools, or the funding for counseling programs in inner city schools with high minority populations, they're being underfunded. So she finds this great, that she does some real great digging in the study and finds this out. So you're reading her article, you're reading her journal, you're reading all about her study, and then if you start talking about some of the facts, without acknowledging her, that's considered plagiarism. And plagiarism, and I want everyone to understand this, faculty know that most people are plagiarizing because they're doing it, accidentally. Intentionally plagiarizing, has become a big deal, especially, with the access and so much data that's out there. But I want you to know that I know that public health faculty is using a program called SafeAssign, and what that means is a program that the faculty members, when you guys write a paper, they can run it through kind of I guess some sort of generator that's going to give you a match for how much information from your paper matches another professionally written paper. So they'll know immediately if you're taking information from somebody else. However, the caveat to that is if your paper does match somebody else's paper, to a certain percentage, and you're citing everything, you've done nothing wrong. So, we have to cite. And again, your faculty member might, be looking a little bit at, okay, is this their ideas? Is this their writing? That's plagiarism. But, in order for citations, we completely eliminate that. Everyone encourages, at this level of your education, you're completely encouraged to use other people's information, as power for your argument and what you're trying to present and what you're trying to say. So, use professional research, use these scholarly articles to help your research, but give people credit. And what I'm going to do is, in this discussion in the next hour, I'm going to explain to you guys, exactly how to do this and to avoid plagiarism. But again, and then culturally speaking, this is just something I learned recently, that there's some, I'm trying to think, we did an interview and we were listening to some students from Africa. I'm not sure where they were from, and they were talking about how when they were in their graduate program, that the faculty, values their opinion in no way whatsoever. They don't want to hear their opinion. They don't want to hear their ideas. So they have to, use the experts and what the experts are saying. So, 97% of their paper, is coming from the experts and very little of their input. But again, it's not plagiarism, if they're citing properly. But that's not really what we want our papers to look like, and I'll get specific in a second. Okay, again, when do we cite? And cite is inside your text. That's that little superscript number that we'll be talking about soon, or if you've used MLA or AMA or APA, when you put the author and the year in your text. When do we cite? Okay, we cite every single time you use refer to ideas or words and data that's originated within a source other than yourself. Okay? Unless the ideas, words, and data are universal common knowledge. And what that means, universal common knowledge, means everybody that would be out of your program pretty much knows it. Okay, so if you're pretty sure that everyone that has, knows who the 16th president was, you wouldn't need to cite that. Okay, that would be something under universal common knowledge. However, when you're doing your research online and you're finding these great articles that are explaining all sorts of things about social systems and studies that people have done in certain countries and research that you guys are doing, you're going to be citing pretty much here every single time you're using those authors' ideas, words, and data. Okay, so if you do that, you're not plagiarizing. All right. Now this is kind of a higher level discussion in terms of writing, and I'll give you a quick preface here. Paraphrasing is when you're using your own words in a description. Uh-oh. My computer just froze. Do you guys still hear me? Can you type in yes? Uh-oh. If you can hear me, know that I am going to another computer.
Okay, hello everybody. I'm so sorry about that. I hope I didn't lose too many people here. Hi, okay, you guys can hear me again. My computer just completely died, so I jumped on another computer. Alright, good. Thank you. Sorry about that, everyone. I guess that's why I have two computers. Alright, okay, here we go. Paraphrasing is when a writer is using their words compared to a quotation, which is when a writer is using the source author's words. Okay, so the argument, at this level of writing is, you need to be using a lot of more paraphrasing than quotations in your writing. Okay, and here's several reasons why, and it'll make sense in a second. But if you look at this, when you're paraphrasing, it's going to help with the flow of the paper. When a writer switches from voice and style to another voice and style with quotations, it can get choppy. So if you're just using, quotations, and a few of your words, quotations, few of your words, it's real choppy. The people that you're quoting, have a different writing style than you do, and they're going to have a different type of vocabulary, so it's just going to sound awful. And I think they actually have a term. It's called a quotation quilt, where you have 78% of your paper is written in quotations. It's not a good paper. All right, but here we go. Look at a little higher level thinking here, and you guys understand this. Why paraphrase instead of quote? Because it helps you process the information. Obviously, as an online student, the big way you have to demonstrate, or the big way you guys are getting papers to read, and your faculty, they don't want to see other people's words. They want to see you. They want to see what you're saying. And when you're paraphrasing, you're learning the information. If you're reading a quotation and you want to put it in, if you want to you want to put it in your paper, but you're having a hard time putting it into your own words. Okay, I hope I'm not breaking up. If you want to paraphrase and you're having a hard time putting that into your paper, then you don't really understand what you're writing. Okay, you don't understand what the source author has said. So when you paraphrase, what that does is that helps you process the information. Now here's what I was getting to before, is that it allows you to demonstrate to the reader that you understand the information. Again, faculty, this is, you don't have a lot of chance to interact with faculty in terms of, being up front and in face and having dialogue, so you're using your papers to demonstrate to your faculty members that you understand what's going on. So if I see a paraphrase, as a writing instructor, or if any of my colleagues see paraphrasing, the one thing that's obvious to us is that the writer of this paper understands what they're talking about. Okay, so that's a big reason you really want to show people. And then, like I said earlier, too many quotations makes for a lousy paper. So when in doubt, obviously cite, and all the time, or all the time cite, and when in doubt, paraphrase instead of quote. Okay, we'll get more into those discussions in a second. Okay, let's see if I can move around now that I'm on a different computer. Okay, let's see. Uh-oh. Let's see what I got here. Alright, I'm sorry guys. Now I'm not able to advance the slides, but there should be some ways to get around that. Okay. Okay, good. So that last one was why paraphrase instead of quote. Okay. AMA citations. Alright, now what this is, again, the citations are in your text. They're inside your essay, they're inside your article. It uses superscript numbers, and what superscript means, super means it's above. It's that little 2 that's floating in the sky. I'm going to explain to you all about that. And that's what we're going to talk about right now. And here we go right here. You can see that little 2, and you can see the little 2 here. And I'm going to explain to everyone how to use that. Okay, those are called superscript numbers. All right. The numbers are determined by the order in which you first use the source in the paper. Okay, so what that means, if we're looking at this according to Smith 2, that means this is the second source that I've cited so far in my paper. Okay, the first one was somebody else. The second one is Smith, and that's where that number comes from. And now, later on, Here we go, good. Use the same number each time you cite the same source. So later on, if I'm going to cite this article here, Smith, later on I'm still going to use the number 2. So I might have a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, and then boom, I go back to a 2 because I'm citing Smith. And if we look here, according to Smith, students become more comfortable with AMA style after repeated use. Okay, so this is a paraphrase, obviously. It's not a quotation. This is Smith did a study and found this out, and we are citing it here. Okay. Lori, yes, it will be recorded and sent to your faculty, and you do have the PowerPoint was sent to you originally, I'm pretty sure. And if you guys didn't get those documents, I forgot to go over this earlier. If you guys didn't get all the documents earlier, if you press no by chance, you're just going to have to let me know at the end, and I will resend those to you. Okay? Or, you know what you can actually do is sign out and sign back in by yourself, and you'll be reprompted, you know, to receive all those documents. Okay. All right, back to work. So, it's a good idea to mention the author's name in the sentence the first time the source is used. So here we go. It's the first time we're using Smith. According to Smith, students become more comfortable, and then later on, you know, if this is the same paragraph, students become more comfortable with AMA style after repeated use. So we didn't put Smith because we've already talked about Smith in this paragraph, or we've already talked about Smith in this section. We haven't brought in any other citations in there. No other sources are being mentioned. So we're just going to keep putting up 2s. Okay. Note punctuation location in relation to superscript. This is interesting. The period is before the 2. Your comma is before the 2. And how do we do superscript? You know, obviously it depends on your Word program. It would depend on your Word program, but you're going to go up on top, and in your toolbar, you're going to see something, you know, next to all your different choices for fonts in terms of strike through or italics or bold. Superscript is going to be one of your options. Okay, Sandra. So the same rule would apply to organizations as well. Good question, Sandra. So Sandra is talking about. So let's say she is citing the Center for Disease Control, which I see a lot of, you know, from MPH papers. So the Center for Disease Control, you're going to be citing maybe some of their papers or some of their information on their website, and it's not going to have an author. So you're going to do exactly what Sandra's saying there. Is you're going to just say, according to Center for Disease Control, with a little 2, students become more comfortable, blah, 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 and then obviously you're going to talk about it later in your references. Speaking of references, let me get this to you real quick. This may clear it up a bit. Yeah, Sandra, if that's what you were talking about, definitely a good question. If not, you know, ask me again. The reason why we put these 2s in for AMA is you look at the medical profession, and the medical profession we're looking at, you know, finding information as quick as we can, you know, in terms of, you know, finding true information, and we want, when researchers, again, we cite sources as researchers so that other people, you know, we add credence and value to our argument. We're not really using citations because we're scared we're going to get in trouble for plagiarism. You know, we're professional researchers, and so when you do go through other people's research, you want to be able to find this study as quick as possible. So what you would do is you simply go to the reference page, and instead of looking for Smith like you would in other formats, you're just going to look for the second source. And you as a researcher reading this study, this pretend study we wrote, you're going to be able to find the Smith article quickly. And if it was, you know, found on a search engine, you'll know exactly how to hit the link or where to find it. And I'm going to explain all that stuff to you. What if you have several article studies for the same source, multiple CDC docs? Okay, that's a good one, Joe. So what you're going to do is you're going to have to differentiate. Again, if it's an article, Joe, it's probably going to have your author's name. Okay, if it's a study, it's, you know, a study is presented, you know, as an article. So I guess I would imagine if you guys are on CDC and you're finding, you know, a bunch of references that, you know, that are not cited, you're finding information that's, you know, not mentioning the author. What you need to do is you need to somehow distinguish between the title of whatever you're reading, Joe. And I'll show you how to do that in a second, you know, a little more specific. But what you would have to do on that is you do according to CDC. And then we would probably, if we had a bunch of different CDC articles, like say 3 articles, none of them have the author's name, you're going to write according to CDC, comma, then the name of that article somehow, okay? And again, this is something I'll get to later, but I want you guys to understand AMA is not real picky in really how things are done. Believe it or not, they have 1,000 pages and they really don't tell you, real specifically how to do things. So unlike other formatting like AMA, APA, and MLA, you're very specific with what you have to do. In AMA, there's all sorts of different things you can do. As long as you're helping the researcher find the information quickly, you're doing all right. Let's see, I want to look at what we got for some questions. If you cite a source multiple times, do you have to mention the author organization name at the first citation, or can you cite the idea? Okay, Julia, let me try to explain this. Okay, so if you're citing a source multiple times, Julia, you're just going to keep writing. You're going to write their name the first time, and then you're just going to keep using the number. At no point in your citation are you going to let's see, I'm sorry. If you cite a source multiple times, do you have to mention the authors or the organization's name at the first citation, or can you cite the idea? You don't really cite an idea, Julia. I think what you're saying here is, do we need to keep writing their name? I guess maybe ask that question again, if anybody can help me with that one. But you're just going to keep putting twos if it's the same individual. And then Lori, I think you're saying that CDC has many sections, multiple documents. Yeah, what you would need to do is you would need to distinguish between the documents. You do a CDC, comma, and then maybe the 2 words in the title or something like that, and that would become its own thing. That would become CDC Health Statistics 3, and then you would just put 3s from then on out. And then your other article would be, CDC Health Forecasts. So you'd write CDC, comma, Health Forecasts, superscript 8. So you'd be using that one from now. Okay, let's look at some of these questions. All right, yeah, I'm not sure about Julia's question either. So Julia, if you can rephrase that, that would be okay. Do you always write Smith first, then use the number 2 for the rest of the paper? No, Susan. What you're going to do is you're going to use Smith first, and then 2, as long as it's really obvious that we're still talking about Smith. If you put other references, or if you've used other authors' names in between, you're probably going to write Smith again. If you haven't mentioned Smith in 3 pages, you're probably going to write Smith again. But if you're looking at the same paragraph or the same section with a lot of Smith, you're just going to put 2s. That's a good question. I think that clears it up. Okay, Craig, I'm not sure what you're saying about a paragraph, but maybe that's how often we need to change the author's name. Yeah, you guys, when you ask your questions, these are great. This gives me a lot of things to talk about. Don't be shy in typing out the whole question, because sometimes I'm on one thought and I'm looking at the other thought. All right. So AMA citations. I hope you guys understand this. It's pretty simple. Oh, someone asked again. According to Smith, students become more comfortable with AMA style after repeated use. You could do that. You could also say well, I'll leave it at that. Okay, maybe she meant several ideas in one paragraph and cite at the end. Oh, okay, thanks, Craig. No, we wouldn't do that. The first time, you're definitely going to write the author's name. Okay, thanks for clearing that up, possibly. Any questions on citations? I'm going to show you guys an actual paper pretty soon, and some of the stuff will get a little more clear. All right. Citing material from secondary sources. Now this is real specific, and I want everyone to see this. This is pretty tricky here. What this means, citing material from a secondary source, is, let's look at my example here. This right here is the article I have in my hand. Okay, this is the article that I found online or in the library, is by Connolly. Okay, now Connolly wrote a paper, and Connolly, he or she cited Kumiko. Okay, so Kumiko is now a secondary source. So now it's, what do we do when we're putting this in our paper? Okay, D-Crew, I'll get to you in 1 second. Let's see. So how do we put this in our paper? So Connolly is the article we're reading, but he or she is citing Kumiko. So what do? So here's what you're going to do right here. You're going to give the name of the original source author rather than the secondary source author. So you're going to put Komiko, and this one's kind of tricky because there are several authors, but there are 3, so might as well teach you the rule here. There are 3 authors, so you're going to write Komiko Y, comma, Stahl Y, comma, Megan Teague, comma, and then you're going to put your superscript number right up there. Okay? Now, what is it going to look in the reference page is the difference right here. If you notice, this is that last page I was talking about. Basically, you need to read Connolly's bibliography. Yes, thank you, D. Jones. That's a great way. That's in your text, you're going to use Komiko. You're going to use the author that is being cited, not the one that you're holding. However, in the reference page, it's going to look something like this. You're going to look in, just like D. Jones said, you're going to look in Connolly's bibliography, and you're going to write this stuff down: Gold Formation in Children, American Psych. We'll talk about that stuff soon. Cited by Connolly ST. This is his or her article, the journal it's in, volume, blah, blah, blah. We'll get to that soon. Okay? When it's a direct quote as opposed to a paraphrase, you're just going to change cited by to quoted by. Okay? So let's review this now that we've seen this a touch, and some of these words it'll all start clicking, you guys. It's funny that it's actually really systematic, and it'll come clear soon. So in the text, we're citing material from secondary sources. So I've got a great article by Connolly. Connolly, of course, is going to have plenty of other authors in his or her paper. In this case, we want to put something Komiko, Stahl, and Megan said. So what we're going to do is we're going to write Komiko, Stahl, Megan, put a little 5 up there, a 9 up there, whatever number it is in terms of the sequence of our writing in terms of citations. And if we're going to do a quote, and then in the reference page, we're going to come and make it look just like this. We're going to put original author, cited by your author. Okay? If it's a quote, it's going to look just like that. Okay. And here's where I was just talking about how to cite multiple authors, when to use et al. Okay. If it's 1 or 2 authors, give both authors' surnames like so. Okay, Rose and Elbow 3 suggests that writing is recursive rather than linear process. Okay, so simply this is saying that Rose and Elbow wrote this together. They're our 3rd study that we are citing so far in our paper. If it's more than 2, we're going to give the first author's surname followed by the words et al. With no period after et al. Unless it's in the end of the sentence. So for an example, we'd have Smith et al. Suggests that writing is recursive rather than linear process. So what this means is that there is the first author list was Smith. Et al. Means there are more than 2, so we've got 3. So I was mistaken right here when I said, sorry. When I said we would write these 3 individual names, we would not, because it's just 2. We would just write Komiko et al. With our superscript. Okay, so you don't put any period, it's just et al. There's your 4. There's your 4. And then in your reference list, again, it's a little different. If it's 6, good question, Nancy. No, it doesn't. It would not be italicized. Latin words are not italicized in AMA. Good question. All right, in your reference list, if it's 6 or less, you have to list all of the author's surnames. If it's more than 6, you list 3 names only followed by the words et al. Now, how are you going to remember this? You're going to remember this probably by keeping this PowerPoint somewhere handy when you're writing, or by doing a search on that, on that library, the web page that I showed you from the library, doing a quick search there, all this stuff, or looking through the book. But after you do it a few times, you'll remember this stuff. But how do you remember this stuff the first time? Just, all these documents we're giving you guys is plenty of resources. And also remember, if you ever have a question, you can just, always quickly send me an email. And if it's a quick one like that, I'll just send it right back to you. But you can also send us your papers here, in what we do is we'll look at a lot of your papers, and we'll look at your paper, and we'll give you guys ideas on how to make it better, and anything you can do to improve it. We won't necessarily edit it, but we'll definitely give you some ideas, on how to make it better. Make sure you're answering the question, make sure your citations are proper, stuff like that. So, when in doubt, send the paper to us. And my email, I think, is all over the place, but here it is real quick if you need that, and that's where you'll send your papers. Let's see, I think we had someone ask a question up there I said I would get to. Okay, when you're using multiple citations within the same sentences, are they supposed to be listed from lowest to greatest number, i.e. 1 through 1, 3? Yeah, I'm not sure the answer to that one, Dekra. That's a pretty specific one. I would say, if you've heard that somewhere, to go with that. Something you can possibly look in a book. Honestly, though, I would say if you're using, the same sentence with several different authors, and you think it's appropriate to do, your number 4 before your 2, I think that'd be fine too, if you want to stress that author in the first place. If you think, author number 4 is a little more important in what you're saying than author number 2, I think it'd be totally appropriate to put it first. But if you've heard that rule somewhere, maybe it does exist, but I haven't run into that one yet. Okay. All right, any questions on citations, you guys? We're definitely going to see more and more of it, but go ahead and ask any questions. Let's see, citing direct quotations is where we're going to go next. Okay, so those were paraphrases, remember? Thanks, Dan. Okay, these are great, I'm reading. These are, we were talking about paraphrases, now we're citing direct quotations, okay? So I'll just read along real quick. In text, so in your text, the citation itself. In AMA, direct quotations don't require the page number to be listed in the body, but the writer can choose to include the exact page number in parentheses after the superscript number. If you do not include the page number, make sure it's the same size. Oh, if you do include it, make sure it's the same size as the superscript. So that's a long way of just saying you can put this page number in if you want to or not. Okay? Again, notice it's a quote, though. You're going to have quotation mark, superscript 2, because Rose and Elbow are the second authors we've cited. And then they've got the page number, parentheses, page. Look at there's no spacing. Look where the period is in terms of the quotation. And there's no period at the end of 112. Okay? Again, you can put page 112 in there or not. In the reference list, it doesn't matter. Okay? If you're citing a quotation or you're citing a paraphrase, that's not really the right way to say that. You're not citing a paraphrase. You're doing the paraphrase. You're citing somebody's idea. If you're citing someone's idea in a paraphrase or you're citing a direct quotation, obviously it's going to look the same in your reference list. Okay? Any questions on that? I think we got a longer quotation example real quick. Let's see if that's the next one. Maybe not. Citing direct quotation. Oh, you know what? I do have something. I will show you a longer quotation in a second. Okay? It's in my sample paper. Sometimes I forget where my sources are. But when we go over the sample paper, you will see what I'm talking about a longer quotation. Okay. Now we're looking at the reference list. So again, this is that last page. Okay, this is the reference list. How do we do it? We all hate it. How is it done? Okay, what is it? It's a numbered list of references. Starts on a separate page. Although we have an asterisk here, you're going to read, several articles that their reference page does not start on a separate page. Their reference, just starts at the very bottom after their conclusion, or whatever they said at the end. They're saving paper. Okay, it has the heading references in all caps, left justified at the top of the page. Apologize for this formatting here, but do you understand that? Left justified at the top of the page. References, uppercase, left justification. Okay. List the references in the order in which they were first cited in the paper. Okay, that's obvious. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's why we did that. That's why AMA does it. So we got to obviously make sure that matches in the reference. Double space all elements. This is a good thing to remember. Double space all elements in your reference page. Format of an entire paper. Again, nowhere in the 1,000 pages does it tell you about font size or font type or spacing. But what we've learned, you can't go wrong, Times New Roman 12, double space. Okay? So if you use that as a general rule for your formatting, you will not go wrong. Okay, so this is a little bit of the science of how they come up with references, so you guys will kind of learn it's not as random as we all think it is. What you actually do is, basic order of elements in each entry on your reference page is going to address the who, the what, the where, the when and which, I think is together, the when and which. Your online address and your date accessed. These are for electronic sources only. Electronic sources are your journal articles that you find through the library databases. Okay, so again, who, the author's last name and first, if it's a there's some specifics I'll get to. Author's last name and first, and if given, source, middle initials. So only put the middle initials if they've given it. That's pretty obvious. Again, who, though, here may not be the author. Who may be the Center for Disease Control. Okay? If we're having a hard time, if we have no author in what we're using, we would use that organization there. All right. However, I do want to caution everybody, we are writing at a graduate level. Pretty much everything you're citing is going to be, peer research, professional writing. It's going to have an author's name, unless, again, it's one of these professional organizations. Okay, Sandra, how do we compensate for certain articles or sites that do not provide the publishing information, dates, and so on? Okay. What you want to do, Sandra, is you want to look at your source. Okay, again, I would argue that that stuff is going to be available in a professional article. Okay, in a professional paper, that stuff's going to be there. However, I know that's not true. Because, Sandra, we'll see in Center for Disease Control, they won't have a date, they won't have, all of this kind of stuff. So what you do is, you've got a couple of different ways to attack it. Is you're going to put in the reference page everything that you can that's going to make the person able to find it. Okay? So let's say we've got Centers for Disease Control, and they've really given us no date. There's obviously no page number. I mean, what are we supposed to do? Just throw a URL at them? It would be something like this. You would say, who, Center for Disease Control, what. You'd probably put the title of the article or the title of the tab, like maybe it was, employee hiring practices or something like that. Like you're citing, how Center for Disease Control is hiring, something, really unrelated to a study, but, maybe there's definitely not a date, there's an author. You're just going to put in a couple of words that are going to make people understand what it is. Where it appeared, you put the, CDC website and when it was published, which specific place or volume. Obviously you wouldn't have that information. Online address, you'd put that. But again, Sandra, I'd caution, running into a lot of these, not sure. Because if it's not sure, it means it's not published, it's not peer-reviewed article. It's not professional research. But the case does come, and don't be afraid to quickly ask us an email. What would we do here? Don't be afraid to ask faculty. What should I do for this one? But that's a good one. Yeah, it's a tough one to have an actual specific, answer to that one. If you attend a professional lecture, do you reference the speaker's lecture or the notes if the speaker provides those? Either one would be appropriate, Christina. Again, that's a good question because, obviously you could have the professional lecture without the notes and you would just be citing the lecture, but if you wanted to cite the notes, if someone had given you the notes, you would cite the notes. Either one of those would be appropriate. How you do it, again, it gets kind of specific. The who would be the speaker. The what would be the presentation at the CDC conference. Where again you'd be referring to the. I guess your what would be a lecture, a presentation. Your where would be the CDC conference in Atlanta, Georgia, 2012. That would be about what you would be putting in that. And how you would put it, how you would cite it in your text again, you would simply put that author's last name and then that superscript number depending on, where it falls. These are great questions, you guys. This is making this advance pretty smoothly. How would you cite an abstract from an article off the internet or part of a legislative law? Cassandra, legislative law is a big part of AMA. Let's see, let's answer the first one first, because you're not going to get much of an answer for the second one. How would you cite an abstract from an article off the internet or part of a legislative law? You cite an abstract as exactly how you would cite anything. You would put right here on your where it appeared, who published it, let's see, who, what, where, which place. You know, if you're getting this from a journal article, you're going to still have to put the journal article and everything like that. I think somewhere it's definitely appropriate to write abstract, and it may be here or it may be here. I'm not sure, but I don't even know if, because I've never really run into actually seeing the word abstract in a reference. You would just cite it, because I've seen people use the abstract, but again, you know, in terms of legislative law, you're getting real specific, you know, on how certain things are done, and that's going to be some research on your part, probably, you know, going through the book or talking to the reference librarian or going, you know, one-on-one with one of us, you know, in some sort of session where we go over that. But that's a great question for everyone to see. If you this is just something to, you know, a sneaky strategy. If you see something like Cassandra's saying there, if you can see something in a assignment that's coming up, and you know you're going to run into something like that, you know, put that in the discussion board. How are we going to cite this website? You know, Professor so and so. And now you're not going to go wrong. Everyone's going to know the exact right way to do it, exactly how the professor says to do it. You know, this is just a great thing to take. So Cassandra can already see, you know, if she's got to write some paper that's going to be citing some legislation, you know, that's a big thing. Hey, you know, there's going to be a lot of legislation we're citing in this paper, Dr. So-and-so. Can you please give us a quick example exactly how you want it to look like in the reference page? You know, and then Dr. So-and-so is going to have to do that, and you guys have all got, you know, gold on your discussion board. So that's a good way to work together in terms of, you know, helping each other out and helping yourself out in those discussion boards. Thanks for bringing that up. Sorry I can't be better, but again, it would be, you know, case by case. Let's see what we have now. AMA references continued. So, here's some basic style of each entry. Okay, these are specifics. Thanks, Cassandra. Okay, these are specifics, and again, remember what you can. No periods after the initials of author's first and, if known, middle names. So no periods after the initials of the author's first or middle name. So you're just going to put JT. Okay, here's another one, and I've got examples of this coming. No and between the next to last and last author's names, so you're not going to say so-and-so, 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 and so-and-so. You're just going to list the people with no and in there. For an article title, only capitalize first letter of the first word of the title and subtitle and any proper nouns. We'll get to that in a second. For any journal or book title, use normal capitalization. Yeah, these are all rules in your reference page, and I'm going to show you guys these. Italicize book and journal titles, but not article titles. Abbreviate all journal titles according to AMA guidelines. That's a nasty one, but we'll get to that. Use periods to divide the different units, elements of the entry. Okay. So when you know you're leaving the who realm and going to the what, you're going to have a period after who. When you're leaving what to go to where, you're going to have a period. Other than that, you're not going to have periods. And again, why do they do that? So that, you know, whoever's looking at your reference page can find it quick. They're not looking at periods on people's initials. They're just looking at periods between who, what, where. All right. Let's see if I've got some examples of these. Okay, here we go. Let's look at this. Let's really dissect these. All right, one is an online journal article from a database. This is your number one. And one's an online journal article with a DOI. Okay. Before we move on, get an understanding quickly. DOI is a digital object identifier. It's how libraries find articles. Okay? What this is, quickly, is it's a code. So you would just poke it in. Poke it in. There you go. So that's what a DOI looks like. DOI 10.3, blah, blah, blah. That's how they find it. However, not everything is categorized or cataloged yet with the DOI, so sometimes you're just going to do this up here, okay? But if you have a DOI, you do this. If you don't, you use this. Now let's look at everything. Okay, Lewis K, period. Now we know that K isn't we know that period isn't for a K abbreviation. That means we're moving on. So number 6 in our text somewhere is Lewis K, K Lewis. ProQuest database, that's where you found it. That's the database when you went online and you did your research with the librarian, got a little bit of help, or you used your keywords on your search. This is the article you found. Here we go. Here's your article title, Psychological Approaches to Studying Math. If you notice, nothing is capitalized except psychological. Okay? If you do have proper nouns in here, you would have to capitalize them. However, that's it. You've got your uppercase P, you've got your period. Now, what is this thing? Psych Todd. This is italicized, uppercase, and it's got a funny abbreviation. In your blue book, or if you do Google search, or if you do that search on the library page I gave you guys, you're going to find what all of the different articles abbreviations that AMA wants. Okay, so this is, Psychology Today, and this is what it looks like, Psych Todd. So somebody said exactly how Psych Todd needs to look like. So quick review before we move on. There's your author, your who. ProQuest database doesn't really fit in any of that stuff. Here's your what, Psychological Approaches to Studying Math. Where. Here's your when. And now what do we got here? Let's see if I can remember these. Okay, this is your journal, and this is the issue. And these are the page numbers from the article. You don't put the page number that you found your quotation. You don't put the page number that you found your idea, your citing. You put the entire page group of your article. Author, database, title of the article, uppercase P only, italicized title of the journal date, volume, issue, page number. This issue and volume may be reversed. You'll see this when you get to it. You'll know which one to put there. This could be the 71st issue of Psychology Today, which means they've been doing Psychology Today for 71 years, say. And then it would be the 71st volume of Psychology Today, and it would be issue 1 because it's January, so maybe it's the first one of that year. But I'm not sure. You have to just look at that up. All right, and then we've got the website where and this is not a good website. The website would have to be a direct link to the actual article. Okay, so this website is not correct. It's volume then issue. Thank you, Julia. Okay, volume 71, issue 1. Yeah, that makes great sense. Newspapers. Perfect. Okay, thank you for that. Volume, issue. All right, so your website or your URL is incorrect here. It would have to be the actual URL. This is just taking you to their Psychology Today website, and you'd want to get the actual article. And when it was accessed is when you actually found it on the ProQuest database. Okay? So here we go. Let's look at another example. And again, this one has the DOI, so you're not going to put the URL. You're not going to put the database. So here we go. Let's look at our authors. It's not alphabetical, W-H-K. It's in order however they put it. Because Wersch is maybe the king of this article, this study, and Hagstrom and Kikas were lowly grad students like ourselves, so they want to make sure they're last. If you look at P-J, L-P, Y-A, first and middle initials, no periods, none of that nonsense. You don't have the and, if you notice that. You just have 1, 2, 3. And remember, it's 6 or less, so we have to put all of them. All right, and I think we all know what this is. This is the title of your article, Reflections on Determining. Nothing's capitalized except Reflections. There's your period because we're done. It's in American Psychologist or Psychology, I don't know. Where did I find this? Amer Psych. In the blue book is where I found it. You can actually go to a section in the blue book that has abbreviations of journal titles, and also you'll be able to find that on that web page from the doc I sent you. Here's your year, There's volume 48, issue 6, this article's on these pages, period, simply your DOI, period. If you notice, look at how it's 4, and then your W, your A, and your C are all lined up. It's double spaced, and it's not alphabetical. It's in terms of 4 and 6. This is not a good example, but I guess it's just two different completely articles. All right, D. Jones. If you found an article on a search engine like Google versus a database, would you need to cite Google as well? Yeah. What you would do there, I think you're talking about Scholar, what is it called? Google Scholar. I think you would write right there, you'd write Louis K, Google Scholar, exactly the same right there. Okay? That's a good question because Google Scholar is a professional database now. If you're just using Yahoo or just Google, you wouldn't put any of that stuff. If you're using Google Scholar, you would. All right, DCRA. So you do not have to enter the access date for the second example. Correct. Yeah, that's a distinction which I'm not sure why, but again, I don't even know why we have to put it there either. But I think we're giving credit to ProQuest database because we're in the modern day of publishing. We've got to get credit to this guy or gal, Lewis. Now we also have to give credit to the database that found the article. All right, these guys, they want their credit. So I think with the DOI, someone looks up the DOI, and that stuff will be given the whatever database it was found on. Great question. All right, cruising. Let's see what else we got here. Any questions on references, citations? I got some specific examples. Discussion of sample paper, reminder about links and resources. Any questions? All right, here we go. So let's do a little. Oh no, you guys are going to kill me. Since I'm on a new computer, I don't have those documents. So I need to spend 30 seconds downloading those documents. Bummer. All right. I don't have them on this computer. How can I access them? Okay. All right. So I don't have access to the documents. I don't have access to the sample papers. Let me do a quick search on my email, see if I can find AMA sample paper. We can at least go over that one with you guys. Oh, good. Okay, I've got an sample AMA paper, and I have an AMA citation cheat sheet. I'm downloading both of those so we can share those. All right, here we go. Oh, that would have been a great idea, Julia. That would have been smart. All right. Okay, let's see. You guys want my Microsoft Word. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see this. Let me give you a quick hint. I think right next to, if you look at the participant windows on the left, go about 25 or 20% down and then look to the right. You can see a little box that says click to fit or check to fit. If you either unclick that or click it, I think if you unclick it, it's going to be a lot more clear for you. Okay. So, okay, looks like Doreen has it. So, basics of AMA citation and format. What is this? Oh, this is the cheat sheet. Good. Okay, so this just kind of gives you everything we talked about. Hopefully you can see this. Let me do a double check before I get rambling here. Okay, so Craig can see it and Julia can see it. I'm going to go. All right, here we go. All right, here is the cheat sheet I was referring to earlier. Let's see if I can actually make it a little bit bigger for everybody. All right, hopefully that made it a little bit bigger. All right, so I'm not going to go over this again, but again, this is everything we've talked about. But let's go over the important ones here. Insert a superscript number anytime you use material quoted or paraphrased from a source. You guys know that. The number should correspond. We got that. Okay, use the same superscript number each time you refer to that source. We got that one. The number can either come at the end of the sentence right after the source material, or if you're putting in the author's name, you can put it, so you can just put a 2 at the end of the sentence or after the name. When inserting, place it after a comma or a period, but before a semicolon or a colon. Yeah, we're going to get to that example in a second. That's when you're doing a long quotation. All right, here's your example. You guys have that. We've seen it. Here's a funny one with the colon. Students become more comfortable with AMA style. Here's a 2. It's before the colon. All right, references. Yeah, I'm not going to go over all of these because this is just something for you to have. Oh, thank you, Julia. I got your paper. All right, however, I think I already have it open, so here we go. All right, everyone understand that this paper it's not written, it's written to point out AMA stuff. It's not written to make any kind of sense. So this is pretty beneficial, so here we go. Let's see if I've got some questions before I get going here. A little fuzzy, I can see it. All right, you guys have those copies, though, just so you know. Jair, is there a way to get this on our email, Basics of AMA? This is a great reference. Everybody who joined us late, let me tell you that this whole session is being recorded, and I will send it to faculty tomorrow. It looks like we've got Colin in here. Yeah, so I'm going to send it to you, Colin, and she will either send it to faculty or send it to all of you guys, so you have the link to the recording. And also, everybody has the documents that I'm going over. They were all sent to you when you first signed in. If you did not get those documents, thanks, Colin. If you did not get those documents when you signed in, go ahead and quickly sign out and sign back in and say yes to the prompt. But I would try to, yeah, Emily, I'm definitely not done. I'm gonna go over this sample paper quickly. All right, let's look at our title page. Again, double spaced. It's real simple. Let's try to make it bigger. All right. Oh, there's huge. Hopefully that worked for everybody. Okay. You've got your title. Now this is, we've had arguments about this at work, about whether or not you should bold the title, and I guess the consensus is now bold the title. Okay, bold the title. Simply just put your title, uppercase what you need to, your name, and then again the date, and this is right here is the title of the course. All right. So always check with your faculty to see if a title page is required. Again, AMA doesn't even tell you need a title page, so they don't really give you the specs for it. But some people put UNE in there somewhere. But again, less is more on your title page. That's all through all formats. Okay, let me quick peek if there's any. Are there any questions on the title page? Again, jump in a question anytime. I'll check back and forth. All right, here's the abstract. If you notice, double spaced, uppercase heading or uppercase bold heading, middle justified. That's because it's it's kind of tricky. It's kind of convoluted. I would just go ahead and not learn the system on the headings. just watch what I show you. Double spaced. Everyone knows what an abstract is. And again, I don't know if your papers require an abstract. Something to ask. Okay, look at your page numbers. Again, for people that are doing different formats, there's none of that running head. You definitely don't have that anymore that people can't stand. But if you do notice, you've got your page number, bottom, middle, justified. Believe it or not, 1,000 pages, they do not tell you where to put the page number. But again, we notice that bottom, middle, it never goes wrong. Okay, here's the title of your paper. It has to be on your first page of your text. And here you go, your left justified of your different topics. Okay, we're going to go through some parts of this in a second. Again, there's another, left justified. It's in bold. This reference page is improper. Okay, so I've got an old one. You guys have a modern one. Let me get the one that Julia emailed to me quickly. All right. Thanks for doing that, Julia. Came in handy. Unless you guys have the wrong one, too. Hope not. All right, good. You guys have a good one. All right. So if you notice, references, uppercase, left justified, bold. And then look at your 1, 2, 3. This is a mistake, obviously, in the formatting here. But okay, here we go. You've got your double spaced. This all looks pretty familiar. make sure you've included a URL if you've also included an access date. So if you ever put this again, this is something from a website that we do not have the DOI. This isn't even a journal. Oh, it is a journal article. Okay, so we don't have the DOI on it. But where's an example of the DOI? Do we have any in here? Right here. This one right here, you guys, has the DOI, so you wouldn't need all that other stuff. All right, I don't want to beat this too much to death, but you got your author. The only reason why there's a period is because we're moving on. There's your title, journal, year, and this one doesn't have an issue, it just has a volume. And then look at the fancy abbreviation of 229. All right, so all sorts of little stuff like that. So you guys have this paper. All right, I'm going to go back and make sure everyone is... Isn't that the year volume issue? I'm sorry, Julia. Not sure about that. All right. Let's go to the paper and see if we can find some stuff to talk about in here. All right. Here is a citation. Whoops. Simply look at that superscript 1. Easy, easy. This is a quotation, and this is in there because people think because it's a quotation it has to necessarily, we have to do the citation. But this is actually just, quoting what somebody said. Not really, it's not really an idea or something from the paper, okay? This is actually, this is someone speaking in terms of this article right here. Kind of a weird one. Doesn't happen too often. All right, what do we got here? We've got number 2. We just wrote number 2, so that means we probably spoke about Graham and Wiener up there. There they are, Graham and Wiener. So from here on out, we're just going to put the little 2. Wersch et al. So if you guys remember the rule, it is more than 2 in our text and more than 6 in our reference page. So there's Wersch et al. 3. And this is interesting. Wersch et al. Primarily explicate others' literacy research and the psychological processes associated with it. Okay, this is in here because you don't necessarily have to put the 3 if this is directly related to what you're talking about. I mean, this is really understood that this article is being referred to right there. Okay? That's kind of a tricky one. When in doubt, though, you can definitely put the 3 there. I would probably just put the 3 right there. But it looks like this person's using, good writing, and they're trying to use, Wersch et al. As the subject of the sentence. So they're just saying Wersch et al. Number 4, we don't need to write whoever 4 was again. All right, here's an interesting quotation. Voight 5. Okay, we don't put the page number. But we put 5 again. Oh, because we have a new sentence. So we put 5 again. Let's look at that long quotation. All right. Just look at some of these things. Again, you have this written down, but you've got your colon. Everything is double spaced. It's indented. Don't change the font. Keep everything the same size. If you notice, there are no quotations, which is interesting. Okay, quotations of lines 4 or longer should be set up. Oh, so if there's 40 words or more, you're going to use long quotation, or 4 lines. You have a colon. A little space before or after the block. That's debatable as well. You see how the double spacing is a little larger between this, and then supposedly between this and this. That's up to you. Some people just do everything double spaced, and they don't go wrong. All right, so that's the sample paper. I want to, let's see, what do we got? We got lots of questions here. Let's see what we've got going. All right, so let me stop sharing that and go back to the questions. See what we've got. If anyone has a question, go ahead and type it in now. I'm going to see what I can find, what I was missing while I was on those papers. Remember, you guys, you can set up times with me and professional writing tutors where we actually set an appointment and we'll work with you, on these papers. If you need help with the organization of the paper, if you need help with the research, if you need help, with the references, what you do is you just email me, and then what I'll do is I'll set an appointment, okay? So here we go. Let's look at our questions. All right, nope, here we go. Oops. I think you misspoke, Henry, when showing us the DOI. I don't know if everyone got it. Maybe if there are questions about the example for the DOI, you could speak up. If you're there, Doreen, can you clarify that, what I said about the DOI? I can definitely bring that back up, though. I'm not sure what I said incorrectly.